Hi, thanks for tuning in. This is the S&P 500 index futures. This is the daily wave chart, although it does have quite a large wave over it, a 50-point reversal, which means the market has to reverse by 50 points before a new wave is established. So that's quite a long-term wave over a daily chart. It's almost like a weekly wave over a daily chart. But as I generally like to look at larger time frames, that suits me. We can look at the daily movement and we can see the weekly wave points and how much supply has been drawn out. And just on that, the first thing you notice here is the massive buying support that's emerged over the last period. There's been no 50-point pullback since late March, which is a pretty strong move. There was some consolidation here in response to the buying support, which emerged there. And since then, there's been 21.3 million contracts to the upside, easily the most in this market, and there's been good reward for effort. And that's the important thing when looking at a wave chart. You're looking at reward for effort. You can see here, for instance, there was a big effort put in, 10.8 million contracts to the upside, but it couldn't even reach the highs of the range. The market was failing there. The market was being sold into there. And that's why the wave didn't make any ground. There was a big effort put in and there was no reward for that effort. And that was a telltale sign that the market was experiencing selling pressure. And then in response to that, you saw that the buyers were exhausted. They could only come up with 1.5 million contracts to the upside, 2.2 million contracts to the upside, and 3.6 million contracts to the upside. Whereas the downside was seeing all the selling pressure. The sellers were holding the upper hand, there was no doubt. So at this point in time, the buyers are holding the upper hand, and there's been strong reward for the effort put in. If we now look at the normal daily chart, you can see that price tested for supply on Thursday below the previous bar's close in here, and then in response on Friday, prices accelerated higher. This week we saw price pull back almost in a shakeouty fashion here, but eventually closed higher for the day. In response to that, price moved up over 2 days. Test for supply, it was quite a strong test for supply because the market did close slightly above the previous bar's high, and then in response you were confirming the strength in the previous test for supply by a strong up bar in response. Now this market does like to test for supply quite regularly, so after Friday's bar was quite strong, you'll probably see the market just trade for a day or even two sideways to test for supply. If supply is found to be drawn out, there'll be a deeper pullback to challenge the sellers. If supply is found to be low and trading conditions remain relatively favourable, I expect a continuing attempt to push higher. You can see that volume increased to the average on Friday, which was supporting the push higher. That's exactly what you want to see. It was a good, strong push higher on about average volume. That's genuine trading with nothing unexpected or hidden inside it. So that was a good, strong move. I expect there'll be a period of consolidation in response, most likely in the top half of Friday's bar. The higher up in its range, the stronger the market's suggesting it is, and the deeper it has to pull back suggests there is some weakness in the market. So look for a brief and shallow pullback, because the depth and duration of the testing for supply is a good sign of strength. If it's a short and sharp and relatively shallow pullback to test for supply, the market is telling you it's strong. If there's a deeper pullback and the market takes an extended period of time to recover, then there's definitely supply in the market and the market is nowhere near as strong. So look for a short and shallow period of consolidation early next week. And if that's the case and trading conditions remain relatively favourable, I expect a continued attempt to push higher. Okay, thanks for your time. See you next week. See ya.